If you're struggling to catch bass in ponds in August, make sure to check out these baits. These are the top bass baits for pond fishing in August, guaranteed to help you catch more fish. This list is tailored towards tested setups with simple rig ups that don't require advanced techniques to be successful. This video covers what the baits are, why I like them, how to rig them, and how to fish them. It's the hottest part of the year, so let's adapt our techniques to how bass act this time of the year. Note, I've added links to top baits in each category in the description to save you some time. Starting off our list is a soft plastic paddletail on a jig head. Small baitfish are a consistent food source for bass across the country, and few lures mimic baitfish better than a paddletail on a jig head. Paddletail baits have a little boot tail that deflects water and wobbles back and forth in the water. In my experience, this little bit of movement drives hungry bass wild. I love paddletails and jig heads because of their versatility. Heavier jig heads let you go deeper, and lighter will let you stay shallower. The paddletails themselves come in all kinds of colors and sizes, so you can near infinitely customize your setup. My go-to favorite setup is a white paddletail in the 3.5 inch range. Rigging a paddletail on a jig head is relatively straightforward. First, lay the jig over the paddletail and visually mark where the jig will need to exit the bait to get a straight lie. Now, feed the bait onto the jig, making sure to exit the bait at that spot you marked. You'll probably need a lighter spinning combo like a medium light rod, but you can use a bait caster for a heavier jig setup with bigger paddletails. To fish a paddletail, frankly, I found that a straight retrieve just works best. The wiggle of the tail creates enough action that you don't need to worry about any fancy pops or complicated pauses or anything like that. The main thing you need to worry about is what water depth the lure is running. Reel slower to run it deeper, or reel faster to keep it near the surface. The next bait on our list is a Topwater Frog, probably the bait on the list with the most potential for excitement. Topwater bites are maybe the most fun thing in fishing. Topwater frogs are soft plastic frogs that work across the surface of the water. The main reason topwater frogs are on this list isn't because they're fun, which they are. It's actually because they're one of the few baits that you can cast into the thickest, nastiest, sloppiest weeds and still catch fish. As summer carries on, submerged vegetation is at its thickest, and in some ponds, you may have to use a frog to even fish at all. Most people recommend rigging frogs on medium heavy or heavy power rods with straight braid. These setups let you both crush earth-shattering hook sets and also pull fish out of thick vegetation without breaking your line. To fish a topwater frog, get brave and throw it in the thickest weeds and as close to cover as possible. You won't get many bites in completely open water. For popping frogs that have a little cupped mouth, you want to pop the frog to display some water and make a surface commotion. For regular frogs, you want to do a pop, pop, pop retrieve as you're pulling, which results in what's called a walk the dog retrieve, where the bait meanders left and right and makes a ton of commotion. My next recommended bass bait for August is a Wacky Worm. A Wacky Worm is where you hook a stick bait through the middle. The most simple setup is weightless and only consists of a hook and a stick bait. I like Wacky Worms because they just plain work. I can't explain it, but bass seem to hit Wacky Worms even on those finicky bite days. To rig a Wacky Worm, tie in a finesse hook, then hook a stick bait through the middle. You can also use other hook types like EWG hooks or really whatever you want, but a small finesse hook has the least amount of extra jewelry on your rig, which will tend to get you more bites. My favorite colors are a solid white or a natural color like a green pumpkin or a purple color that resembles a nightcrawler. These footage clips are using hog logs by Glacier Tackles. Make sure to check them out via the link in the description. To fish a Wacky Worm, cast it out, then alternate between popping the bait towards you and letting it drop. I almost always have a Wacky Worm tied on as a backup option if faster moving baits aren't working that day. The next recommendation is a spinnerbait. Spinnerbaits consist of a skirted jig and one or more spinning blades that create flash and commotion in the water. The jig itself can be fished with or without a trailer. I like spinnerbaits because they're effective with a straight retrieve, and the flash and thump in the water is incredibly effective in medium or low water clarity conditions to draw the attention of nearby bass. I don't recommend spinnerbaits in super clear water because I found bass aren't as willing to strike the bait in those conditions. Rigging a spinnerbait is easy, just tie it to your line. The only choice is whether you add a soft plastic trailer to the jig part or not. Paddletails are a popular choice, but you can rig just about any soft plastic you want. I'm a huge fan of white spinnerbaits, and specifically for ponds, I recommend going with a slightly smaller spinnerbait. To fish a spinnerbait, cast it out and do a straight retrieve back to yourself. You'll catch more fish if you're casting near shallow cover like weed edges and submerged timber. My last recommendation for August pond bass baits is Flukes. Flukes are another name for soft plastic jerkbaits. They're very similar to paddletail swim baits, except they usually have a straightish or forked tail. Flukes have a more erratic action in the water than their paddletail counterparts. I like to rig flukes a couple different ways. The first is weightless on an EWG hook. This lets you have a great darting action that stays near the surface. You can also add a bullet weight if you need to go a little deeper. The other way is with a belly-weighted hook where the weight is integrated into the hook itself. To rig the fluke, slip about 1/4 inch of the bait onto the hook. Next, exit the hook out the bottom of the bait and slide the bait up to the top of the EWG hook. Now, lay the hook over the bait and visually mark where the hook needs to penetrate the bait for a straight lie. Run your hook through that spot. To fish a fluke, give it gentle pops to cause an erratic action. Mess around with lighter pops or even closer to a straight retrieve. In conclusion, these are my top recommendations for August pond fishing bass baits because they're easy to fish and are proven to consistently catch bass. If you have one of each of these in your tackle box, you're set up to catch fish in almost any condition. As a reminder, I've included links to some of the top baits in each category in the description for an easy reference. Drop a comment below if you think I missed any top baits. Check out the link in the description for a free knot tying ebook for the important fishing knots every angler should know. Hopefully, this video helps you on your journey to become a consistent and effective bass angler.